Hi, good morning. Welcome to At Risk International's weekly intelligence insight briefing. My name is Roman Fisher, Protective Intelligence Analyst here at Risk, joined by Director of Intelligence, Ross Hill. Getting started this morning. According to a recent white paper by Fivecast and published on the policeone.com website, 2022 has been the deadliest year for mass shootings in the U.S. The latest shootings in Buffalo, Uvalde, and Highland Park represent a continuing trend whereby attacks are committed by young men under the age of 21. Before 2000, most mass casualty incidents were carried out by middle-aged men. From 1950 to the year 2000, there were 85 mass casualty events with 526 total casualties. Most of these attacks were carried out by adult men. Since 2000, there have been approximately 190 mass casualty incidents with 1,182 total deaths. And these attacks were carried out mostly by young men under the age of 21. The shift in ages has been attributed predominantly to those who have self-radicalized via extremist content on the internet. Extremists such as the Buffalo shooter and shooter in New Zealand had attributed their radicalization to online information and online communities. The authors of the white paper contend that the internet is the overwhelming factor when explaining why most attackers since 2000 have been young men. The development of the internet and digital communications are vital components regarding how radicalization has evolved. Although the process of radicalization has remained fundamentally the same, the internet has increased extremist communications in scale, speed, and security. Finally, today's violent extremists are often young, technologically literate men. However, this allows risk and threat professionals to track, identify, and interdict. It will require those with advanced knowledge and tools who can identify the indicators of potential violence using primarily open source information. It is a near certainty that future extremists will use the latest online tools and platforms to radicalize. And in most cases, they will communicate their plans before they happen. Next, I hand you over to Ross Hill.
Thanks, Roman. So update on Ukraine for this week. There has been a slight escalation in the war, Russia launching at least 83 missile attacks on Ukraine today. More than 43 of those were reportedly shot down, but multiple areas were targeted. That includes Kiev. Civilian casualties have been reported and infrastructure has been damaged, several areas being left without power, water, or heating. Also, some suggestions that cyber attacks were being carried out at the same time. We have been talking about increased attacks on infrastructure by Russia over the last couple of weeks or so as a means of escalation in the conflict. But these attacks are in retaliation for an explosion that damaged the Kerch Strait Bridge, which connects Russia with Crimea. And that bridge was built after Russia annexed Crimea in 2014. Russian President Vladimir Putin called the attack on the bridge an act of terrorism and blamed Ukraine. And although Ukraine hasn't officially claimed any responsibility for the attack on the bridge, they released some messages on social media after it occurred that really indicate that they were actually responsible. In response to Russia's escalation, Ukraine's President Zelensky will address an emergency meeting of the G7, and the UN will debate a Western resolution condemning Russia's annexation of 4 Ukrainian provinces. The resolution will demand Russia's full withdrawal from the areas it occupies in Ukraine, although if it's passed, the resolution is actually non-binding, so it wouldn't really have any kind of impact on the ground in Ukraine, but it is worth watching how the voting goes. And we'll be looking at the number of overall votes in favour of the resolution, which will give us a kind of idea of the international support for Ukraine. And then we'll also look at who votes for Russia or who abstains from voting in a tacit support of Russia. Typically, countries such as China and India will abstain in those kind of votes, and we'll see how they react. But Ukrainian offensives are ongoing. There is a little bit of concern that they are peaking or will peak soon, especially as winter weather approaches. But their success has caused a lot of domestic criticism of the Russian military performance and some criticism of Vladimir Putin. Putin actually reportedly reshuffling some of his senior military leadership, probably to try and deflect some of the criticism of him. But from what we're seeing, nothing suggests anything different than our prolonged conflict scenario at this time. That's it from us this week. We hope you found the content useful, and we hope to see you again soon.